Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Filmmaker Q&A for Shorts Block 5. We hope you enjoyed the films. We are joined with filmmaker Louisa Fung with Daybreak and JK within the frame. Thank you
Hello.
both so much for joining us on this Q&A. I know it's very late where you are, Jay, and Louisa, I think you're in the same time zone as Portland, but we're just really happy that you could be here and chat with us during this. There's people in the Discord server, and I'll be checking that to see if anyone has questions for either of you. But I would like to get started with a question for Jay first.
Sure.
This is a student film for you, correct?
Yes. Yes. This is a student film for me. So within the frame was my student film. I'm 44, and during COVID, a lot of us sat back and we were very indecisive on what we wanted to do because we were locked in our houses for the most part. So I went back to school, and I went back to Montclair State where I graduated about 7 years ago with my bachelor's, and I got into the film program. So this is my student film from my first semester, and with COVID and the structure of being in class, it was really an amazing adventure and challenge to produce content, especially when there were so many restrictions. So yeah, this was Within the Frame was a student film for me, and very blessed and very lucky that I was able to create something that people have enjoyed.
Nice. Excellent. Well, congratulations on
Thank you very much.
going back
Thank
to
you. I
school and all
appreciate that.
doing all that
So
stuff and for
yeah.
finishing a film.
No, it was awesome. And I'll tell you something real quick. When you look at something like this, I mean, there was a lot of people who created content over COVID times, and hats off to them for being able to do it, because we'll get more into it, but there was limited hours, limited shoot days. There was almost next to nothing because everything was so restricted because of COVID. But Montclair State University and Professor Natalie Marks did a great job in giving as much as they could to be able to create this. And a lot of it, the post production with COVID, was a blessing. So
And Louisa, with your film Daybreak, is this I don't think it said this was your first film, so tell us about your
So
experiences
Daybreak.
with film.
Oh, just really quickly, I'm zooming to you from the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, the unceded territories. So that's the thing that we do here at the Land Acknowledgement. That's Vancouver. For everybody else in Canada. Daybreak was a. It was like a. It was a. I had just shot another short film that is actually also currently in festival called Hope and Grace, which was like a period piece that was like about my family, and it was a lot, and I just finished that. But ma'am, the Vancouver Asian Film Festival has a contest called the Mighty Asian Movie Making Marathon Contest, and they're like, we want you to be involved, and I'm like, I don't want to do anything, I'm tired. And then they said, but I was like, you know what? They have a 1 minute category that I don't have to pitch. Like I literally just have to submit, and then they'll offer the support, and they do mentorships and stuff. And so I paid my little $10 submission fee, and then was like thought about the theme, and that's how Daybreak came about. It was one of those things about like consciousnesses or dreams, something like that. And so yeah, and it just kind of like came together in the most, like, it was supposed to be really simple, like how most films are. They start like, and then I was like, oh, you know what? I wonder if Jackie's available, because she'd make a really great night hag. And then I was like, wait a second. And at first it was just supposed to be her hands, right? Like literally it was supposed to be like two people. Like I was going to be the hand, right? Like it was, and then all of a sudden she said she was available. And I'm like, well, I want to see her face. And I'm like, oh no, I have to see her face. Now I like contact lenses. I'm like calling people for special effects makeup. And I'm like, we shot it all in one day in my apartment. It won its category, and it was super fun. Because I had just finished post production on my other short, literally everybody who was part of that, like, basically jumped on board. I was like, even though they've been paid for that, I'm like, listen, I'm just doing a 1 minute thing. I know it's adding on to your plate, but would you mind? And they're like, yeah, of course, we'd happy to, because I have an amazing team of wonderful people up here. So, yeah, so that's Daybreak.
Excellent. And was that the actress that was in it also in your other film?
No, actually. So Yvonne Chapman, you will know her from Kung Fu on CW, and Jacqueline. They were just friends of mine because I work on set as a professional assistant director, and that's how I got into filmmaking. I've always loved it, but luckily I've had some like really great connections with people, and they've yeah, so Yvonne is not in Hope and Grace, but now she's like super busy. I can't even she can't even take my calls. She's so cool now, which is really cool. She's like the sweetest person. Jackie is you would recognize her. She's actually a twin. She's from a series of Unfortunate Events. She plays she's part of the Horde, as we call her. So, and she's done, her and her sister Joyce have done a bunch of stuff. So they're like wonderful local actresses that are happy to help on like the quirky weird stuff that we shoot, so which we do lots of because we shot Supernatural here for 16 years. So yeah, we have a lot of sci-fi action people here and fantasy.
And was this your first horror film, or have you made horror before?
No, this was my first. I have this like, as a young filmmaker, or youngish, I also am in my 40s now. I am 41. I know, Asian skin, right?
You look marvelous. You
Thank
look
you, thank
marvelous.
you. Look amazing for 44. That's, you know.
I know. Thank you very much. It's the loss of the hair that makes the difference. So you know.
But yeah, so I had this philosophy as I was making my short films that I would just try a bunch of different things, and so it's like both good and bad. So it's like I get to try different things, but then like my demo reel doesn't look like anything like cohesive. But
Mm.
then other people are like, but you've done all the sorts of stuff, so that really makes you versatile. So yeah, horror, like it was one of those things like, what have I not done yet? And I said, well, let's do horror because I can do like I love really good storytelling and like suspense and horror is like it's like the ultimate of really good storytelling and jump scares and stuff. And
Mm.
it was a challenge to pack it all in 1 minute, let me tell you.
But you did it. You managed it. Oh my goodness. Do either of you, well, Jay, you filmed, was it winter when you filmed?
We filmed it in September, October, and finished up in November. And we had a total, and this is one of the things that really kind of stretched our, the storytelling as well as was a little bit of a detriment. We only had 1 day with the actress.
Oh,
Sarah
wow.
Schiffs was there on set, and when the class had set up about doing the final project with the COVID restrictions in place, I wanted to create something that was outdoors so that way, for safety alone, it gave that
Mhm.
thing, it gave that peace of mind. And we were really, we were so safe on there. Everything you can think of, we had when it came to the COVID restrictions. But when we went out there, I wanted to do something with an urban legend. And with an urban legend up in Northwest Jersey, it's packed with them. And the Polaroid Trail is one of them where, the story goes that a couple was walking through the woods up in Great Meadows, New Jersey, and they came upon a field of Polaroids. And it was all these terrible things. And they picked up the Polaroids, they were looking at them. They finally dropped them, went to go get the police. When they came back, all the Polaroids were gone. So it's kind of a ghost story and an urban legend with it. So we wanted to shoot it during the fall and have that kind of cold, feel to it. But Louisa, as you can talk to, I'm sure, and Glenn, with the experience, you and Brian, all the films you've seen, all the stuff that you've worked on, it's easier said than done. So during the fall, we came into a whole bunch of other problems that we weren't expecting, and we were up in North West New Jersey, up in Sussex County, and we were dealing with ticks, we were dealing with poor schedules, we were dealing with limited sunlight, we were dealing with so much stuff. In fact, it's funny because the location I shoot it on is my aunt's property up in Wantage, New Jersey. She was nice enough to give us something controllable, which is, during the fall, you want something controllable because of the elements. You got beautiful colors and everything. Well, the time that we had, limited time, and especially with the sun, we only had 6 hours to shoot the entire short film. So we had to deal with the sun, we had to deal with everything. And so, the fall, we did shoot it during the fall into the winter, Glenn, but man, it brought some really incredible challenges, but also some things I never thought it would be.
Nice. So ultimately, are you pleased with how everything turned out?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love what came out of it because, it's got its bumps and bruises, but it's an amazing short film because with an urban legend, not a lot of urban legends are really tackled anymore. So it gives you kind of freedom to do what you want. And I knew that this wasn't going to be much of a narrative to it. So I wanted to make it more experimental. And it really was experimental. A lot of fun. All the sound is practical. The score is done by Susan using a variety of different bowls. It was an amazing experience, and I was very lucky to have a great cast and crew. And Sarah Schiffs, she is really, one of the highlights of it because she brings a professionalism and emotion to that character in a very limited capacity. So yeah, I couldn't have been happier with it, Glenn.
Good, good. Um, the thing about the Polaroid trail, because it was interesting that you actually showed them long enough on screen, because a lot of times when you get those kinds of shots that they go by so quickly you can't even
Right.
see really what's in them. How did you have to go then? I mean, you had to stage all that stuff beforehand, or did you just kind of do the ones that she was looking at and then fill in the rest later?
I'm glad you asked that because we want it to be as authentic as possible. The only problem is that authentic Polaroid film most likely is expired. So
Mm.
I purchased multiple packs and I had my own Polaroid camera. But everything that we shot didn't, it was expired. And you don't know that until you go and you start shooting it. So what we had to do was, between technology of the Polaroid producing app, the minis camera that's put out, and the aspect of turning pictures into Polaroids, we were able to create all of it. But we had a blast leading up, because we had a few days to do a lot of the production, a lot of the um, production die, excuse me. When it came to it, we went inside my aunt's house and we shot everything that you see with the Polaroids inside there. We set
Oh,
up
wow.
all the murder scenes, all the effects, everything with it. And I think that's one of the things that I regret about it, is that there's not more showing of the great work that we did with it, But because there was a 5-minute restriction for it being a student film. So we had 5 minutes to do it, and she was nice enough to give us the extra 30 seconds for it. But it was tough to be able to do. But everything with that was authentic Polaroids that we shot and we created on the property. And then I came back for another day and I redid some of the Polaroids and did some production design of my own. A lot of this in the post-production phase was just me. It was just me going up there and recording the sound, getting the Foley I needed, stuff like that, and moving forward. But we wanted to be as authentic as possible. And we were very lucky to be as resourceful with the Polaroids that we had and the ones that we were able to take, Gwen.
Great. That's fun. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking about how like Polaroid, like old Polaroid film, like
You can
doesn't,
go on eBay.
they
You
don't
can go
make
on
that
eBay and
anymore.
buy boxes of them, Gwen. You can go on
Yeah.
there and, for $10, you can buy like 50 to 100. So a lot of the ones you see on the ground are other people's memories that were bought off of eBay. And that's kind of crazy, And then we staged the more mini ones where where the cast and crew had a lot of fun dressing up as the family and dressing up. You see the one where she's coming out, and those are influences of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Strangers and stuff like that. And it's so much fun because, as Louisa said, you can do so much with horror. Horror is such a creative medium, Gwen. As you and Brian have seen, in Portland have seen, that you can just do anything, and it gives you creative license to just make nightmares.
Yeah, definitely. For both of you, who are some of your influences in filmmaking?
Oh, Louisa, you go first. Come on. No, okay, you want to go first? Well,
It doesn't have to be a horror film.
No,
I'm interested to know who your kind of the
I
I
mean,
really
filmmakers
I
love.
that
can't
you kind of
answer.
look up to.
I
Go
can't
ahead,
like
Louisa.
yeah, I'll go first. Like I always get this question of like, who are your favorite directors, right? Because of what we do, and I think Ron Howard is still number one because he's just like where he how he shoots all his films is like very character oriented. Like it doesn't matter what it is. It could be like spaceships. It could be race car drivers. It could be like politicians. Because I'm thinking Frost Nixon now. But basically he's all about the people. And then I'm very much the same way, and that I can do like multiple genres because as long as I can connect with the characters and they're like they have a lot of depth to them, then everything surrounding them, including like the cinematography and stuff, like I can trust my people to, or my colleagues to do their job, and we work together to create a really great story. So Ron Howard, Bob Zemeckis, John Hughes, like that era of filmmaking. I know it's so cheesy, but I love all of that. I have literally not done comedy yet, which is like I'm so dying to do a comedy right now. But yeah, and so I love those are some of my influences. But in regards to like horror, I mean, I worked on when I was a production assistant. I worked on The Fog, which was with John Carpenter, like the remake, and let me tell you, it was terrible. The movie and shooting it, like
Oh no.
I'm just putting it out there. The best review I read was like, so Tom Welling, who was Superman on Smallville, all he does is drive around, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's literally all he does. He just drives from one part of the island to the other. But John Carpenter like sat down and talked with me, some like random PA. I was like the key PA, but sent like and had a conversation with me over lunch about filmmaking, and between him and working on Supernatural as a trainee and working with Kim Manners, who's passed away now, but he was the executive producer on it. I mean, you know, he taught me that like horror is really hard to do during the day. So how do you like? And I was just like, oh, that's really smart. And so that's actually why Daybreak is kind of like Twilight Day, because it's supposed to be around like 5 in the morning when you finish an essay, like a pull an all nighter, and then you fall into that weird drifty like space in between. And so that was why I did it, like not in the dead of night, but like that creepy part of the time where you're like, oh, we don't know exactly what's happening when. And so that was really, yeah, he was a big influence. He did a lot of like X-Files, and so he was a huge influence on my my filmmaking in that regards. And also like on the floor, like he showed me how to direct like a proper TV director, like how do you actually, how much homework they do before they even get to set. And as an AD, it was like, that makes me so happy. Because yeah, my career has been quite broad, and I've worked with um, a lot of wonderful people who have influence. So it's not just like the big Hollywood people, but just like the people I'm luckily surrounded with, because they're so supportive and really like to share their knowledge. And yeah.
That's
I,
fantastic.
there's the kitty.
Oh, I think this is the first
Kitty.
cat we've seen in any Zoom
Ah,
call so far. It's
I,
weird.
Gwen, for me, I'm a big fan of Brian Bertino, who did The Strangers. He has a really great, he's really great at creating tension and dread in really kind of everyday situations. And The Strangers was a big influence on this when it came to the masking, when it came to horror, in your backyard. Also Jack Ketchum, who was passed away, but he tremendous author, and he's someone who was very much about housebound horror and horror that happens, in your property. Because within the frame, in kind of a nutshell, talks a lot about the horrors, behind the mask. There's this house that you're seeing that, and we've all grown up in places where we've seen houses and we're told, oh, the old lady in that house is a witch. You don't want to go near that house. It's scary. You don't want to, and it's all about what's behind within the frame, what's behind that frame, what the people are there, and that some people are good, and then there's some people that look completely normal that are not good whatsoever, and they do terrible things. So someone like Brian Bertino is an influence for sure. But for those who don't know me, for the last 10 years, I've done nothing but cover horror and film festivals and everything. So I'm inspired and influenced by so many people, because I see so many people, so many filmmakers who are busting their asses every single day, whether they have opportunities or they don't, whoever they are, it doesn't matter. They're working to create amazing content. So that's what inspires me. That's what influences me. These people who are just busting their butt to be able to do it, because is Within the Frame a great short? Not by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fun. And there's a lot of passion and a lot of love that went into it from a lot of different people who worked for basically nothing. Because you don't want to work for free. And obviously that didn't happen, but you work for next to nothing and you got to earn your keep when it comes to it. So I'm inspired and influenced by so many different people that I couldn't even begin to name. I bring up Brian Bertino because he's an influence on it, but so props out to so many people over the years who have inspired me and influenced me and taught me about things. And you're always a student, but that's where I draw it from. That's what inspires and influences me.
Nice. Excellent, excellent.
Like the reason why I have a night hag in my story, and like on her, and why it's on her chest, was literally I wanted a cat lying on her chest, hitting her a little bit, that feeling. And then she's like, "Oh, it's the cat," and then she pushes it off, and then the door opens. But you can't train a cat, and it was like August, so like it's like it's too hot. It's like a small apartment, and cats are like, they're not completely untrainable, but
they do what they want.
Well, you know what? It's, you bring up things like that and how something, Louisa, like a cat can kind of change what you're doing. The urban legend of the Polaroid Trail, I thought about doing an adaptation of it, but then I thought I wanted to do something that had more layer, more context to it. And originally where we were going to shoot, Gwen, was a completely different part of the state of New Jersey. But I ended up getting a tick bite, and it changed everything on where I decided to shoot, because then I had to change location because I was worrying about the crew, and I still have the mark on my stomach. So it's like, it's just things like that, whether it's a cat, whether it's, you know, an unexpected event that makes it shapes the films that we make. And that's really incredible because amazing, Louisa, how the cat, you know, you wanted something like that and they changed the creative process and the storytelling with it. So that's amazing.
It's interesting, Louisa, with the night hag and the cat and the chest sitting is all ties into like the classic reports of sleep paralysis, that people wake up and they think something's sitting on their chest.
Yeah, that was exactly it. It was like, you know, and then I started doing research and talking to friends who, like, just talking about it, right? Because I was doing research, and then one of my best friends, he's like, "Oh, I've had sleep paralysis, and like really terrible, terrifying, like noises and sounds," and I was just like, what is happening? That is awful and awesome. Okay. So, yeah, that was kind of part of the inspiration, like, you know, doing good research because like I wanted to really reflect people's actual experience, but also really dip into, you know, the folklore of the night hag and feeling suffocated and what that story was, which was of course like this witch that would, you know, suck your soul out while sitting on your chest, which is always fun.
Yeah, that's disturbing. I think I would definitely freak out if I've never had. I don't think I've ever experienced sleep paralysis, but the idea of it is very unsettling, to say the least.
Jay, you
Well,
were saying that
excellent.
you have had it before.
I've
Tell
had
me.
it before. Yeah. When I was much younger, um, I was living with my father and I was sleeping in my room and I was laying on my stomach and all of a sudden I woke up and I couldn't move and I felt something on my back. And it was, uh, you know, it could have been a dream. You know, but the way that it felt, the movement on my back, and then all of a sudden I just went out, but it always stuck with me. And I want to say it was sleep paralysis. I want to say it's that, but it's crazy to even think about. And you know, Lisa, hats off to you for because I watched Daybreak, and hats off to you to be able to explore that and do the complete narrative in 60 seconds. So well done when it comes to that.
So for both of you, I think your sound design really becomes important to the story, especially in Daybreak because it's so short, and like having that sound design really adds something, another layer to it, because there's not a lot of time to let the story unfold. Can you talk about your sound design a bit?
So my composers for Hope and Grace are their company is called Ictus Audio, but it's two women, um, Yao Wang and Sherry Lee, and Yao was actually they actually also teach. So I said, hey, can we get like it's a 1 minute thing? I know you're super busy because they are, and you just finished Hope and Grace. I know there's a lot. Can you like give this to one of your students maybe? And then it turned out to be Yao and one of her students to like make the composition come together. And then, you know, so I already knew her work because I she'd elevate her and Yao had elevated, so her and Sherry had elevated Hope and Grace to a whole other level. Like I was watching a steady cam shot and I was like, wait, it was good before, but now it's like what the f, it's amazing. And and she knew that of course that like I value sound so much in all filmmaking. Like sound is like half the movie. If you have crappy sound, you might as well just stop the movie.
Mhm.
For you young filmmakers listening, but yeah, so between that and then like the syncing of the sound of her voice and stuff and her breathing wasn't quite there because I did the audio for that and it was like my little like H4n zoom thingy. I didn't have a proper sound person there, but we ended up, you know, covering a lot of the with just her breathing, with just and it was only a minute, and the music just to create that tension, to pull that tension out. And then you know the night hag and her little kind of like screech echo effect. That was, I mean, again, it was like it was so funny. Her makeup took 2.5 hours and we saw her like actual face for like half a second maybe. That is all you needed, right? So we like were shooting, and I was like, okay, we're done shooting with Yvonne. We've done literally as much as we possibly can. When is Joyce Jackie gonna be ready? Like soon? Like, let me help you. Let me. But yeah, so the sound design was done by some incredible people, and yeah, and we just worked together to help build the tension, and then like rebuild it again at the end. I did the editing myself. It was tough, not easy.
I
Did you?
love I love to edit. Oh God, I love to edit. I'm sorry, Gwen. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. I was gonna say, do you often edit or do you hate doing it?
I did it out of necessity before, and I don't mind doing small projects, like little projects, but when it came to my last project and other ones before that, I started engaging an editor because I love the process of making it all. However, the minutia of the actual like cutting it together is just like it's satisfying but not satisfying enough.
Hmm.
And I know people who love editing, and I just like love those people. I'm like, please, thank you for
Just take
bringing your
this.
love to this project. And so I don't edit but I did do Daybreak because I'd already put my people through enough, and so I have some background in editing. I also want to do a musical because like I did an action short as well, so that's kind of like a musical with all the fighting is like dancing, the choreo. Um, I did not edit that either because of same thing. It was just like it just becomes too much, and then I wanted to really work with my community and give myself a break, because if you edit it as well, you become too involved, or like you become too immersed and you lose parts of it. And so just having like a collaborator in post production on that side is really great.
Well, I won't lie, I immersed myself like hell in this. It was great to be able to do the editing on it because it was so much fun. And I'll go back to the sound part, Glenn, to be able to do the practical sound, and for independent filmmakers, I have a Zoom H6 and used a variety of different microphones and recorded a lot of practical sound and Foley on set, or yeah, on location, I should say. And then when it came to the closing section where she confronts the entity that's on the other side of the field, that's a lot of practical sound from my house. So I recorded a lot of it and worked it in post production. And for the score and variety of different bowls, we went with a different kind of way of doing the score, something that originally I had not thought about. I wanted to do more strings, like a Joseph Bashara, who did Insidious, The Conjuring, a lot of James Wan, that kind of style. But when Susan Decker and I had began, because she's also my girlfriend and I love her very, very much, and I'm so appreciative for the fact that she took the time, because she's very talented at creating amazing harmonies, sound, and music when it comes to these 7 metal bowls. And we used a variety of different bowls, quartz bowls, 7 metal bowls. We used a variety of different string instruments, a lot of stuff that was based, if I'm correct, Ecuador. Thank you very much. From Ecuador. And we created sound that really kind of changed how the short was. So between the practical sound, the Foley, the aspect of the soundtrack and score, it gave it a whole different kind of haunting feel, in my opinion. And I think the sound is one of my favorite things about it, because I've always been, Gwen, a fan of sound. I'm partially colorblind. So sound has been always something that's been more important to me. And, the style choices of black and white and color are not because of the color blindness. It kind of signifies her world. And then moving into something that's almost like an Alice in Wonderland when she decides to be a voyeur on there. I know, Gwen, that H.P. Lovecraft, they put the quote at the beginning of it with it. And it's so true. I add the her to it because when you come to the doorway and you deal with what's going to be there, and in this case, it's about voyeurism to a certain point, where she crosses over and she hears the sound and the siren kind of sound to her and draws her, but she knows that she shouldn't do it, but she gives in a temptation. So I thought that the score and the sound really kind of emphasized that very well for what we were working with.
Nice.
Thank you.
Excellent. I love listening to the whole process of this. I don't really have any other questions. Is there anything else you want to add that you didn't get to talk about?
I wanted to say that, you know, Jay is your girlfriend, like standing there with, you know, because you said very
I
publicly that
can't
you
show
love
her. Sure, I
I
won't have a
love her. Like
girlfriend if
she's
I show
standing
her.
right there.
standing
Wait,
right there with her
wait,
threatening look in
Standing
her
right there.
eye.
hang on, hang on. Just a little.
You have to say that she's
You see her right in
awesome.
the corner there?
Yes.
She's in the
Hello.
background. Yeah, there you go. See, she's in the background. She's very bashful when it comes to it, but I am
Okay.
so proud of what her and the cast and crew did. And I wish that she was here right now to celebrate her work because she deserves it. And that's one thing. I made it the point that more than 50% of cast and crew were women. I wanted to go ahead and yes, exactly. I wanted to go ahead and I had a tremendous DP in Emily Harding who, you know, was in my class, but she had so much more experience and she brought certain things. And Sarah Schutz, who was an amazing professional actress. That was one of the few things I made sure was there. I wanted someone, as I said before, someone who was there, and she's got so many credits in horror and she's got such a unique look to her. I don't think we did justice to her, but you know what? It was an amazing performance for what we had and the time we had with it. And my PAs were awesome, and the remaining crew and everyone else was just great. So I just want to give props out to them because they made this as much as what I made. So hats off to them.
Yeah, it's amazing how much like an army, you
Yeah.
know, even a 1 minute short that was literally shot in my apartment was still 10 people. I mean, six
Yep.
people shooting and then post production, but I mean, and that is like the least amount I've ever shot with, you know, and like I kid you not, everybody was female identifying except for one person, and that was Kyle, and I haven't actually even met him. So, but yeah, like having a great crew behind to help make these things come true and like bring their ideas. My contact lens tech was also my boom operator, so like you know everybody pitches in, and yeah, and I just wanted to say, Gwen, thank you so much for programming Daybreak, and I'm sure Jay feels the same about
Absolutely. Glenn, it's been one of the highlights of the festival run so far to be a part of the Portland Horror Film Festival. It really is an
Oh,
honor. So thank you.
well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you both for, sending your film to us and letting us have a look at it. And
We
we really,
appreciate it.
we really appreciate you being here. But
Well, again, you have another PA right on camera
yay.
right now, you know, or talent. That's the talent. Is
Yeah.
that cat union? That's my question. Oh,
Is it union to get paid in snacks?
Like watch
there you
the rider on this cat, unbelievable.
go. Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you both so much. Where can people find you on socials, or you have a website where people can see what you're working on next? Go ahead.
I am on the Instagram under at Louisa_CBE, which I know sounds like a lot, but it's just my production company is Clever Bird Entertainment. So CBE, Louisa_CBE. I am on the Twitter. However, I'm never really on the Twitter. So because Canada's not really a Twitter people, it's weird. I know, like I go to the States and you know it's all about the Twitter, and I'm like, I get it, but no, not very much. But I am on there at Louisa Fung. So please follow me for the upcoming information about other stuff, including Hope and Grace and other projects, and because that would be great to have you guys join, like the
For
journey.
me, I'm under JYKY on all the social media, but you can find it under A Strange Man in the Film Land. That's what I've been going by now. Yeah, Strange Man in Film, and that's the production company name now too. Because what we're doing now, Gwen, you know, I'm a big fan of horror. In the last 10 years, I've covered so much. I've been writing for Horror Hound. I do Horror Happens Radio. But my project I'm working on now is about the retro swing renaissance of 1996 to 2002 and the impact of it, because it was such a cultural phenomenon for such a short amount of time. But there's so many people that were a part of it, and it's their stories, and it's about the larger scale of that time. And it's going to be a series, but we're starting with the New York chapter first. So it's something non-horror that I'm going to be working on next. So if you go on social media and all that stuff, you'll see more about that. But always got my heels in the horror, so you can find out more with the writing and the radio rather than the filmmaking.
Excellent. Well, thank you both again for
Thank
being with
you.
us. This is a great Q&A. We really enjoyed your films, and we wish you all the best of luck in the future. And we hope you get to watch everything else. And yeah, if you are, bored and need something to do, stop by the Discord, the Portland Horror
Right.
Film Festival Discord, and pop into that chat July 31st, shorts 4 and 5, and just say hi, see if anyone leaves questions for you
Absolutely.
there, and you can answer them.
Absolutely. And Gwen, can I say, great questions on the Q&A. Always appreciate that. For someone who does it, I always appreciate that as well. And absolutely, check out the Discord. And by the way, folks, you haven't seen the stairs, check the stairs out, and check out Greywood Plot as well. Highly recommend on the feature side. Wonderful feature. Great selections this year, Gwen, you and Brian.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Pleasant nightmares, folks.
Thanks. All right, we're going to say goodbye to the audience, and we'll see the audience tomorrow.